So a few months ago, I released an Elden Ring review, and many of you asked for my thoughts on the recent DLC. The DLC was a bit divisive, and this review is no exception, as I have both praises and criticisms of the game. So today, we're going back to the lands between to talk all about the highs and the lows in the Shadow of the Erdtree. The DLC came out 2 years after the release of Elden Ring and was highly anticipated. I was really excited about the Shadow of the Erdtree and spent a lot of time theorizing about it. I even made a prediction video, but unfortunately that video was really disliked. It performed so poorly that I ended up just deleting it altogether. I wasn't sure if it was just my channel or if people were genuinely not excited about the release. But that didn't stop me from playing it and making several videos on it. The Shadow of the Erdtree opens up after Mohg's defeat and is centered around following Miquella to the Land of Shadow. And before you lies the Skadoo tree.
Skadoosh.
Yes, I am guilty of pronouncing it Skadoo tree, and yes, I did become aware of the Old English word, knowing that it's pronounced shadow, and so it's actually the shadow tree, which makes a lot more sense than Skadoo tree. But why does everything have to be so convoluted? Just spell it the shadow tree. It may be a tad less creative, but who really cares about the spelling? It's better than having half of your players calling it the Skadoo tree until some random person on Twitter corrects all of them. There's a really interesting new group of characters that we meet, almost all of which are followers of Miquella, some by choice and others by charm. I actually really liked all of the new NPCs for various different reasons, and I enjoyed the uniqueness of each of them. The design of their clothes and armor, the individuality of each of their personalities, and the fact that they all have former alliances adds to their stories. Freya, the battle-hungry Redmane, Sir Ansbach, an old pure-blood knight, Lita, the last Needle Knight, and even Tialie, the Saint Trina simp. I really liked following their paths and exploring their lore. Even the NPCs who weren't a part of Miquella's gang were super fun additions. And I've gotta admit, it was a lot easier to follow them around in the DLC than it was in the base game, which was something that really bothered me. So that actually made me really happy. I also loved the boss fights. The music, the design, the atmosphere. I ate it up, it was so good. I know you guys that they're hard, and there is no question that the difficulty scale up in this DLC was insane. Regular enemies are way too freaking hard as per usual, but once you've gathered enough Shadow Tree fragments, it does get a lot easier. I think the bosses in Shadow of the Erdtree are some of my favorites, with awesome new designs and lots of incredible lore references. Having said that, every boss deserved a cutscene, and I'm mad that certain bosses didn't get one, specifically Romina, R'Lana, and Bale. The lore around these three bosses is not only some of my favorite, but also some of the most interesting, with connections to the Scarlet Rot, Dragonlord Placidusax, and the Carians. The fact that none of them got a cutscene felt very lazy and was a huge letdown. We got a very detailed and very cool cutscene of the Dancing Lion, but not one of Romina? That's just wrong and kinda cheap. Romina and R'Lana's fights in particular felt really rushed. I wish we'd gotten a tiny cutscene of them before jumping straight into battle. You know, it's stuff like this that sticks out like a sore thumb because the bosses that did get cutscenes, those were great, obviously. So why couldn't these bosses get one? Something that was surprisingly bad in Shadow of the Erdtree was the exploration. Now don't get me wrong, I loved exploring the Land of Shadow, just like I loved exploring the lands between. The major problem was the fact that a lot of the map is empty. You'd find some interesting ruins and a couple of enemies, and then nothing all around it. In the base game, there's caves, there's tunnels, there's catacombs, there's ruins, there's wells, there's everjails, there's so much not to just explore, but also to find. The whole point of exploration being fun is that there's something to find. I'm not gonna lie, the Shadow of the Erdtree does have some interesting areas. I really liked the jails in particular, but there's just simply not enough. This is a very common criticism of the DLC, and to be fair, of the base game as well, that it ends up feeling empty everywhere you go. I didn't notice it nearly as much in Elden Ring as I did playing through Shadow of the Erdtree. I have a major issue with the Shadow Tree Chalice and that entire area behind the Shadow Keep. It felt like something else was supposed to happen there, but it never did. The Abyssal Woods were also super spooky and so cool at first, but then quickly became another big, empty area. I understand why the Jagged Peak is so empty, because it's supposed to feel that way. But these other areas feel like a missed opportunity. That being said, the design of the Land of Shadow was on another level. Each area is more gorgeous than the last. You'd think for a place cast in shadow that it would look terrible, but no. This place is beautiful and so thoughtfully designed. From the Cerulean coast to the Bellerat settlement, from the ancient ruins of Ra to the shaman village. The details that went into creating the world deserves a lot of credit. The Shadow of the Erdtree is stunning, and loading into it transported me back to that very first moment when I first played Elden Ring. Same goes for the music. So many of the songs call back to the music from the base game, and I am obsessed. It's such a cool detail and shows the forethought in the soundtrack's composition. I'm a huge sucker for the music, and I even listen to it while writing these scripts. It's just that good. But let's talk about the most polarizing aspect of the DLC, the story. We're following the footsteps of Miquella the Kind, the Empyrean offspring of Queen Marika and King Consort Radagon, and the twin to Melania. This is a moment so much of the base game was dedicated to. Latenna's questline, finding Ordina, discovering the Halig Tree, battling your way to Melania, finding Mohg, and discovering Miquella's cocoon. All of that led to this. Disguised as a follower of Miquella, we travel to the Land of Shadow to follow in his footsteps, discovering the parts of himself that he willingly parts with. His eyes, his arms, his love, and his fear. To achieve the ascension he believed he was destined for, Miquella abandoned everything to become a god. But just like the nascent butterfly, his godhood was over as soon as it had begun. Miquella is a controversial character, and opinions on him in the fanbase can range from nonchalant to severe. For some reason, a lot of people seem to think that I hate Miquella, but I don't. I find him fascinating, and I actually really enjoyed his story in the DLC, which I personally know a lot of players who did not. I think that's because there's a divide in what people wanted his story to be about and what it actually is. I personally wasn't caught off guard by any of the story beats in Shadow of the Erdtree, and I liked all the little revelations we have while getting to know his followers and the things he's done to get there. But there was one aspect of the story that I didn't like, and that was the decision to make Radahn his consort. Here's the thing. I get the similarities between Radahn and Godfrey. I get it. And I've been talking about the connections between Miquella and the Carians for a while, so I get that this makes sense. But from a gameplay aspect, for me, Radahn being his consort is boring. While they did change up his moveset, the fight feels repetitive because we've already done this before. I wasn't excited for this final boss fight. I was actually disappointed by it. The fact that Mohg's body was being used to resurrect Radahn could have produced a body horror nightmare mashup of the two, which would have been terrifying but awesome. But instead, we got buff Radahn with a few horns. To be honest, I barely even noticed the horns the first time around. All of this buildup, everything we did to get to this point just to have to fight Radahn again? You guys, I didn't like it. The ending of the DLC feels kind of odd. You watch Miquella's memory and that's it. It's abrupt and left me sitting there wondering, now what? If you've seen my other reviews, you'll know that I love replayable games, when choices matter and different routes can be explored. It's part of why I loved Elden Ring so much. Shadow of the Erdtree doesn't really do that. There are very minor things you can change here or there, but nothing that majorly impacts the ending in any meaningful way, which is why I haven't actually replayed it. I just don't feel the need to. And it's not like a super big deal, it's just something that I noticed. All in all, I still really like Shadow of the Erdtree. It has its problems, but it's still very enjoyable. It just doesn't quite live up to the base game. But that's just my opinion. I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching my review. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like. I talk about a lot of different video games like Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate 3, Clair Obscur, and a lot more. So if you're interested in that, consider subscribing to my channel. Let me know down in the comments any games you want to hear me talk about next. Thank you so much to all of my channel members. Your guys' support is what keeps my channel going. And if you would like to become a member, you can hit the join button down by my name. As always, you guys, I can't wait to talk to you all in the next one. Bye!